Hi, just a quick update on Open so we can see how it's working and what its internals are like. So just the base chart with Open here, if we'll bang off that gamma so it's nice and clean. The base chart in Open shows us a couple of things. It shows us that this was the accumulation period, and so they've really started thinking that a cheap value is at $1.50, not the 50 cents that it dropped to. We haven't really had another accumulation. Most of this period here just looks like a changeover in hedging from the different periods. This hedging here is just the market makers being pushed for IV, if you can see that in the IV there. This increase in IV is just them reaching across the spread. If we look at the options, we can see that the options started getting pushed about the 15th of May here. This is when we've seen a doubling in the money calls, maybe even more. We've gone from 109, yeah, no, exactly a doubling there. And in that same period, we had a reduction from about 39 down to about 29,000 through this period of in-the-money puts, which might have been used until somewhere here, but dropped off, but I think that they've stayed pretty static there. We've seen an increasing of them in two phases, one in this phase here, which was really quite late, but it might just be a shunt across. So I thought, let's go and have a look at the delta sorted, and the delta sorted, it's very difficult to see because there's just so much violent movement. The only thing that's really obvious to me in the delta sorted is here we've had an increase. We've gone from 1,200 in the money hedges, so that's a direct hedging there, and it's the same as this one hedging that we can see here when we've hit about the 21st. We can see from 0 to about 4,500 in hedging there, and that's been held during this period, and they've been taken off here on the, if we go across, on the 7th of August. So I'm hoping that I switched the screens through all of that. If we just went back and had a look at about the 7th of August here, is just in the middle somewhere here is the 7th of August. So it was at the bottom, people just trading the 50 or 0.618 retracement there. So that's all. They're the only really obvious things I can see, apart from we've had almost a complete disconnect down where there's no hedging there. The remaining in the money puts there were probably sold somewhere here on the bottom. On the 24th there, they're probably sold, so they're using the IV to their advantage. So that's in the delta sorted. In the normal matrix, we can see them in two batches here. We can see them in a solid batch there. It looks like there's about 300 more there to come off. Let's have a look. I would say that they've come off during that period. So the things to note in the liquidity were these pressure points on the 15th. We can see the DPI here was selling. We can see the increased IV. Some of that was to do with this lower pricing here, but the increased IV is just the market makers reaching across the bid. If we went back and had a quick look at the liquidity now, the liquidity, I'm looking here in the 15-minute zone, is really reactive liquidity. There's very little. We did have this one pump here on the 7th. That's the one that we saw there, puts coming off, ready to go long again. It's a pretty easy to follow on and off here. We really didn't see an off there. The off is really been probably the start of this jump that we saw on Friday, where we saw 600 puts come off and we saw a huge squeeze in price. Whether we're going to see that sort of upsize, I don't know whether they're going to be forced across the grab so much. I would say we've probably got a bit more of a steady climb, much more of a steady angle rather than so high. But you can see here's this squeeze here, so it's reactive liquidity rather than accumulative or causal liquidity. Anyway, I hope that's not too long. So I reckon Open, you can stay in there. We can, if you guys want to put it onto the list, just keep banging me every few days. I'll try and remember to do it otherwise on my daily. Have a good week's trading. Cheers.